the awkward stage of waiting for YouTube to figure it out, right?
Yeah, we did our first YouTube stream with like I think we had like 100 or so different guests we wanted to bring on. So we thought for our first stream we'd make it really complicated.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. And we are actually live. I think it appears that we're live. I think we're live. We're live. All right. It's always that weird. Oh, God, I can't imagine a live stream with 100 people though. Boy, howdy.
Just in a whiteboard, some different colored markers.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, guys, welcome to the Making Awesome podcast. We are joined today by Mr. Michel Petch of 3D printing industry and honestly, maker in general. But this is season 2, episode 26. Michel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Some people know who you are, but give us the background here.
Well, first, thanks for inviting me along. It's really great to be on the show. I've really, since I discovered your content, always like to respect the way you do it. Adding some quality sort of details that I think, it's what the industry deserves. And I suppose, there we go. One of my writers has just finished an article. I've got my my Philips Hue logged into this and that, and then into like our tracking system. So when an article's ready, that's what happens. So if you see that, it's not the bat signal. I don't have to.
Well, it kind of is the bat signal. It's the bat signal for 3D printing.
Yeah. So how did I get here? My goodness. I will say it's the best job I've ever had. I'm very passionate about this industry. And maybe it's the best job I've ever had because the job I was doing previously was probably the worst job I ever had. I was working in finance way back in 2008, and it was incredibly sort of boring. Lots of spreadsheets, kind of glued to my desk, pretty much so they would come and pick me up in the morning, take me there. I'd work, and then they'd put me in. I'd have dinner there. Sometimes I'd have lunch, and then they'd send me back home, and I'd sleep and do it all again. And I was like, God, it's got to be a different way to this. So, with that man, I started planning my escape, and I got out of that. Did a few little things, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Ended up running 3D printing industry. So we have been going as a publication for 10 years this year. We have a team of trained journalists and qualified engineers and videographers, photographers, the essential part of the sales marketing team. And I think makes us a little bit unique is we're all in the same office. Okay, not so much these days. We've got a hybrid model going on, and I'm in my second office today. But pre-pandemic, and now things have settled down a little bit in London, we're back in there, and we're in the office, and we're surrounded by what we write about: printers, scanners, the materials. There you go. That's it. And I think if you want to do this and you want to be in it properly, you've got to get your hands dirty. Or as I've been doing today, getting my hair clean. This is actually some dry shampoo, which is apparently, you know what it's for. It's not for the no. It's
for scanning, so you can get rid of shiny objects.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I use water and soap to wash shampoo to wash my hair like a normal person.
Sometimes you need some. All right, look, some of us with longer hair have an issue with a little bit of extra oil production. I'm always worried I'm going to get invaded by the United States, but it is nice to carry some dry shampoo just in case. Like, oh crap, my hair's too shiny with the top down light. Let me just hit it real quick, and we'll be good. But no, dry shampoo. That is one of the secrets to not spending $300 a can on fancy spray for 3D scanning. You could just dry shampoo spray it. And some of them actually smell pretty good, so it makes it a little bit easier when you're, basically spray painting a car.
So that's my point is really, yeah, we are in this, we sort of we know all the little tricks, And I think that's really helped us, earn the respect of the people in the industry. And that's why, they come to us with news, while they talk to us about, things that are going on. And, the other part of that is, we are, we're reporting on a very exciting industry. We try not to get sucked too much into the hype when it's happening in the industry. But if something goes on externally, we're going to go out and bat for our industry. And I remember there was all the hype around guns. Do you remember that? Back,
Yep.
still goes on, still goes on. But there was a big piece in Australia. I think it was 2016, and it started off just on a few blogs like, police raid uncovers huge amounts of methamphetamine and 3D printed submachine guns. I was like, wow.
And for some reason, they cared so much more about the 3D printed submachine guns that no one ever once decided they would try, because we all know they're stupid. Well, and they wouldn't focus on the mountains of meth that they just got. No. 3D printed firearms. That's the news story.
It was. And there were photos of like a very obviously standard submachine gun illustrating this. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm calling BS on this. So,
yep.
How'd you go about that? Well, I phoned up the detective who was on the case and said, what's going on? And it was fantastic. I won't do an Australian accent. I'm not going to do any accents. But this guy's on his phone. I can just imagine him sitting there, and he's sort of like, I'm talking about 3D printing, like I've just described an alien or something, and he's like shouting across to his mate on the other side of the office. What was that we found? What did we find? He was like, and it was a brand deleted name of printer. And I said, well, where did they get this this whole 3D printed bit from? He said, well, we found that printer I told you about. Where did you see this? I said, well, I saw it in The Guardian. I saw it in The Sun. I saw it on a bunch of everywhere. And he said, oh, The Sun. Yeah, I wouldn't believe the date it was printed in that paper. And it wasn't, it was the media jumped on this. So when something happens like that, which, to be a bit more serious, I mean, when all this was happening, there was a very real possibility that, technology we love was going to be legislated against.
Yeah, we had, and like, I'm in Florida, okay? It's one of the cavalier states in America, okay? Like, look up Grady Judd. You'll know what I'm talking about. But we had multiple police officers come by the shop that were legitimately afraid of this. And the only time I have ever been asked to go on the news, ever, was when Cody Wilson got arrested, and they had us make the Liberator for the news. And I made it in the brightest, obscene yellow that we had. And I said, I will never fire this. I did not assemble it because there are some very gray areas legally. And I completely torpedoed their entire story because I talked about Newtonian physics, not about the fact that, yes, I can make firearms and 3D printers. No, it's not about that. And it's a shame that that's what caught on for the industry. And the one thing I've always appreciated about the work that you do, and of course the work with 3D printing industry, is that you guys never sensationalize that. I mean, yeah, okay, you're going to cover it, right? Because obviously it's easy views. But it's not something that you went and sensationalized. You would call the people and say, all right, so what actually happened here? Instead of just rewriting the same thing, adding a sensational title and sending it out. That's what good journalism is to me, is really make sure that you do it correctly. But your background is in finance and economics. Why did you end up going, like, that's a pretty serious career jump. I can't say that I have relevant career degrees either. I have 2 business degrees. But where did that kind of spark come from, where you said, I want to move into the 3D printing industry?
Now, yeah, where did I say I wanted to move into it, or did it come come and get me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Could I avoid it? I mean, additive manufacturing. What do they? I've heard someone stumble on it and call it addictive manufacturing.
True.
Still
accurate.
It is. I know a few people who've got a bit of a filament problem.
Okay, it is organized, good sir. There's 96 spools here, and you can't see the other 30 that don't fit on the racks.
So I'm not pointing any fingers here at all. I don't want you to feel judged, but so like you say, yes, I was working in finance, working for a large investment bank, and in a way, sort of my hand was forced. 2008 came along, the credit crunch. A lot of people started reappraising what they wanted to be doing, myself included, and the opportunity sort of presented itself to switch up my lifestyle a little bit. And I took that opportunity in 2010 to go to Mexico, which was somewhere I'd been before, and absolutely loved the people and loved the food, the climate. I've sat here in London, and the needle is sort of touching zero, probably below zero tonight. So I was like, okay, maybe do this for 6 months, just get a bit of space. And I ended up staying for 6 years.
Wow. Okay. I think we lost him. We lost him. Well, we'll wait for him to come back here and oh, there we go. We lost you for a second.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Let me go and plug in Ethernet. Let me plug in Ethernet.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. This is what happens when it's live sometimes. But you know what? It's always fun. This is also how you know the backgrounds aren't fake, because I'm over here like, oh, shit, is it me? But I do the same thing, run the Ethernet across the house, but that's all right. I don't know what DC means. Oh, DDoS. No, DDoS. We're here. Cut it out.
Right.
The chat's saying DDoS. No, we're not being DDoS. Don't worry. we all run on municipal internet, which is somewhat not reliable. It's not reliable. No.
It's big 2D printing. It's trying to stop the.
Hey, Epson did just release finally a little bit of detail about their big high-end 3D printer, so maybe it will be. But I'm glad I'm not the only one that just runs an Ethernet cable across the floor, because I definitely do that, because Wi-Fi is not reliable enough.
No, I should have thought of that. So where was I? Yes, I got to Mexico, and I think, well, I need to eat, essentially. At some point, I do like eating, so I had to sort of work out how to make some money, and I started falling back on my network. And I've always been very interested in technology, and I had people asking me, well, can you use your sort of knowledge of finance, accounting, and corporate whatnots to do a bit of due diligence work. So if you're not familiar with the term due diligence, it's when a company is thinking about buying another company, and they'll break out the papers and books, and you'll go to town and see whether it's a good idea. It's like getting a surveyor around to your house when you're trying to sell your house, essentially. So I would do that kind of work, and that wasn't just in 3D printing. That was across a bunch of tech. I had at one point wrote some white paper for somebody. I'm not sure I should say about this, but it was one of the cryptocurrencies, which isn't Bitcoin.
Well, that only narrows it down slightly.
It was before your Dogecoins and all of those, and they may have been a DAO involved, which I wasn't involved in that, but the idea was, can you use a Turing network, Turing, whatever they called it, and this smart contract idea where you can sort of negotiate and do these contracts, or just for the general security of the data. Can you take data from large banks, for example, or anyone who's just crunching numbers, and then process that somewhere else and use the heat, the byproduct of this, to heat large volumes of water. So taking the chips that you would typically use for deep sea mining, it's running those on a rig, and that was just some
That's
wild stuff. Yeah.
that's upper echelon. Like I do know people that will only mine cryptocurrency in the winter to heat their homes, and I'm like, well, okay. I mean, you're gonna heat the home anyways, so sure, I guess. But I
Mm-hmm.
also directly do blame them for the fact that none of us can get upgraded computers. So, there is
Yes.
that. But we're actually going to be, I'm trying to schedule them. We have one of the first attorneys to make it through Stetson Law here in Florida with a background in blockchain. So I'm going to try to get him to come on and talk about with using his few specifics, but talk about how blockchain could be used to protect IP in the 3D printing industry, because that is a massive concern for everybody.
I mean, there's some legit applications for
There
blockchain.
are.
Don't get me wrong. But I certainly will always cherish the moment I'm sat at an early crypto conference, and one of the audience, when asked if there's any questions, said, "Yes, but how do I tell my staff we're all going to jail?" Just seeing everyone suddenly bolt upright. They're all fearful of getting indicted for money laundering.
That is that is the right question to ask. So that I guess that would answer the "what is something interesting about you that's not on your resume" question that I had.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch, but anyway, so I'm doing this due diligence work for a variety of kind of what might be categorized as frontier technology companies, and more and more 3D printing keeps creeping into the mix, and I find it a lot more interesting than some of the people who are like, "Hey, let's do the next Facebook, let's do the next Instagram, let's do the next MySpace or whatever," or it's like it's like TikTok but just for dogs or whatever.
I'd
So
watch that.
sure, it's out there somewhere. So I'm kind of start doing more and more 3D printing related work, mainly on the corporate side, looking at how it was. I thought, I better understand how this works, really. So I did the normal thing and started phoning up university professors, and in particular Hod Lipson, who was at Cornell at the time, who had written a book on this, and he took my call and let me talk to him at length about the technology, as did many other people in the industry back in 11 or 12 or whenever this was, and it was great, just the sort of openness of the community who were willing to sort of share their knowledge, talk me through it, and I've had a grasp of the technology, but I had some funny understanding of it. And of course, I thought I knew everything about it.
As one
10
does.
years ago.
There's a
Yes.
certain, I forget what it's called, but there's a saying for when you're brand new to something, you know a little bit and you think you know everything. That's everyone goes through that, right?
Yep. And I realized I knew very little about it. I know that now. And one of the sources of information I was using was 3dprintingindustry.com, a publication I now run. And fast forward a while, I was sort of doing a bit of speaking around this, writing a little bit, writing publicly. I noticed that one day 3D printing industry had changed dramatically. It didn't look how it used to look. So I emailed them and said, "Hey, what's going on? Have you been hacked?" And I got a response, and they said, "Oh no, actually, we've just bought it, and it was the new owners who bought it."
Yep.
And they had put in a whole new editorial team, and had some ideas about how they wanted to run it. And I said, "Well, okay, it's not as good as it used to be. I could do a better job." And they said, "We've got someone who can do a great job." So I said, "Okay, well, why don't I just do a couple of articles a week?" Um, and I did that for a couple of months. And then the guy who was running it said, actually, do you know what? You should probably run this. Because I kept, yeah.
That's interesting. It's something that Mara talked on last week. We had Mara Hittner from Matter Hackers on. She said one of the best things you can do if you want to do something is freaking show up and do it. And you saw a change. You said, wait a minute, I need to reach out. You showed up. Now you showed up in their inbox, but you showed up and you made yourself, you know, the squeaky wheel got the grease. And then you proved yourself, and you basically, so you were starting out as a writer, and then you basically went straight to the top. Is that kind of how that worked?
I came in freelance because I was kind of doing my thing and quite sort of content just to do 2 articles a week. I was also doing freelance articles for Autodesk's blog as well, writing about sort of additive, but from quite a very broad perspective. So writing about IP protection and all sorts, which you touched on earlier.
Yep.
And doing all these things. I didn't really think I wanted to do it. I had a nice life in Mexico. So I was in Europe for a couple of conferences, and I arranged one of the meetings to meet up with the new investors, and they sort of said, well, you know, maybe you want to sort of run it. I said, well, okay, maybe I do, but let's see. We just got this guy. I kept pitching ideas, and then they changed their minds down the road and said, come back to London, meet the team, come and see everybody. And I did. And the team, apart from one amazing person, were not really cutting the mustard at that point. So there was, I said, look, if I'm going to do this, I need to kind of have free reign, be able to sort of write about what I want to write about, employ who I want to employ.
Yeah.
And they were great with that. So there's never been any sort of right, go and push this, push that angle sort of on these things. And I was very fortunate to have a person who would become my deputy editor in due course, Bo Jackson, who worked for me. You may know the name Bo Jackson, but it's not the Bo Jackson you're thinking of.
Okay.
Which Bo Jackson are you thinking of?
I knew a Bo Jackson because they were a client. I can't talk about the work that we did for them because it is still, to this day, under non-disclosure, but they were a client.
Okay. I wonder if they got their name in the same way the Bo Jackson I'm talking about got their name, which is from maybe a chat nose. Is the chat active?
We only got a couple of people here hanging out, but if you guys know who we're talking about, let us know. And if you have questions, please, it's live. That's what the chat's here for. Ask questions and such.
Well,
apparently Bo knows basketball is what I'm.
Bo Jackson was I'm not as good on my US sports as I should be, but was an amazing athlete who competed at sort of very high level in both a variety of sports, American
baseball and football.
Yes.
Yeah,
those sports. American rugby, I think is it called, and American rounders. Yes, it's in the games. So anyway, that's not the Bo Jackson I'm talking about, but I was very lucky to have this wonderful woman who was really also equally as passionate and very funny person who was keen. And we built a team around the technology and started just changing things up a bit. And so how did I get from where I was to where I am? I think a big bit of luck, to be honest with you, but also being interested. I'm looking at my browser tabs and there are far too many open.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
I'm not going to count how many I have because that's well, people are going to worry for my computer.
Yes, yeah.
But that's kind of part of the research aspect of it, though. If you don't have a window with more than 20 tabs in it, are you really researching adequately?
Yeah, bro, do you even research?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I'm just curious. I am curious, and I think, we're blessed in this industry that it's technology that can be used for so many different things. So, you, if you've got that curiosity, you can't be bored, really. This week, I'm off to interview an artist who uses 3D printing as part of their artistic practice. It's not all they do, but I've always had the perspective that artists have an interesting take on what's going on in the world in general, and in technology can often sort of point out some interesting things that maybe we haven't considered sometimes. I mean, you look at the work of Philip K. Dick, for example. I mean, this is a guy who kind of was talking about probably 3D printing in the 70s, was talking about, they smart objects. There's that scene in Ubik when he's trying to get out of his house at the beginning of the book. And he has to have an argument with his front door because he doesn't have enough credits to pay his way out of the house.
Well, that's if Ubisoft takes over home automation, right? It's all DRM.
Yeah, and it's, and then I even saw a company that's actually called Snow Crash. That's a metaverse company. It's like
Black Swan becoming real. Oh, damn it.
Yeah, don't call your company Snow Crash. Don't call it Skynet. No.
But it's funny. No, it's not. It's not funny. It's funny to like you and your 3 founders. Everyone else is cringy about it.
It's a little bit, isn't it? Yeah.
And you kind of stayed here at the editor-in-chief role for quite some time. How long have you been with 3D printing industry at the editor-in-chief role?
Oh, must be about 5 years, I'd say. Yes.
I mean, that's a pretty substantial career length in this industry, right? And you of all people know how often people are bouncing between companies. I mean, I was just talking about how I had a wonderful conversation with Avi Richtenthal when he was with 3D Systems. I'm like, wait, he's with Nexa now? When the hell did he move? It seems like no one stays, and it's always the same people, right? It's always like once you get, it's like this is a Hotel California of technology-based industries. Once you go in, you ain't ever going out. You can move around all you want, but we don't see a lot of people leaving the industry. We see a lot of them bouncing around. Why do you think you've stayed with 3D printing industry so long?
Well, I bought the company for one, so.
Well, okay, fine, all right. Well, okay, I didn't. Why are you just editor-in-chief? Owner?
I'm not a big grandiose person. In fact, that is kind of breaking news to the wider public. Yeah, but
wait, when did the sale go through?
Oh, it's actually old news. It's been more than a year, but I don't need to talk about big grandiose titles, this and that. It's never been my sort of my thing. I think CEO culture. Anybody with a Instagram is like hashtag boss life.
Yeah, boss I avoid that. I do say that I'm CEO, but I have debated on going down to general manager and making this is the stunt double for the cat. We have she's our director of marketing and HR. Like it's literally on the website, and making her the president just as a joke. I just haven't gotten around to updating the website. I thought it would just be funny, but I understand that. For some reason, people are very adamant on showing off their C-suite level position in a company that doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, it's not just me. It's my business partner is the guy who's been with me for a very long time as well, Oscar, who handles the commercial side, and we're both together. It's just us. We are the owners, so
that's cool.
Yeah, it's great. We both go into the office and still do all of that. Oscar does own 3D printers. He kind of got into it, and he uses it as well, and it's just a really sort of good group of people we've managed to sort of assemble. And I'm just very very proud of what we've got, and I think we're doing something right.
I think
I think in the industry, I think people generally sort of respect us, but during the lockdown and during the pandemic, the Press Gazette, which is a media sort of reporting organization here in the UK, they acknowledged our reporting on the community's response to the pandemic, and with a sort of recognition of
you guys did do a
journalism. Thank you, thank you. And it was tough. It was very hard for everybody. I think everyone was isolated. It was an awful time.
I don't think I've been more proud of the industry than I was then, right? Like, I was actively working alongside of direct competitors in our area, and we were sharing files back and forth. We were sharing print settings so that we could all optimize what we were printing for speed, for quality, and efficiency. I've never seen this community come together for something that major other than like being pissed off at MakerBot for something. It seems like that was the first time we came together as a global response team, if you will, to a good cause, not just because we were upset at something else.
It was. I think I put together a Discord server, and that did sort of mushroom, and people used that to connect, and things started happening there, and it was from every level. It's from a person with one printer to people with the fleet of the largest fleets of printers in the world.
Yeah.
They were all in it, and with very minor exceptions, they were in it for good reasons. I remember there was one project which still kind of gets me a bit mad, which was a mask project that was set up by some people who weren't exactly in the industry and come from another tech area. And maybe you sort of know about it a little bit, but they were sort of, they were seemed to be building a mailing list more than anything, which is a bit of a sour taste.
There's always going to be some bad apples in the bunch, but I think that was one of the few times where I think good prevailed over evil, at least in this industry, because like we talked about earlier, this industry has been the subject of some pretty rough press. And see, I had a hedge that you were kind of the owner of 3D printing industry, because it is what time for you right now, and your Philips Hue bulb is flashing white, which will wake people up. So clearly you want to be very much notified when things are coming in. I'm like, I don't think he's getting paid enough money to be notified at, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night?
It's not that late. It's 7:30. But,
okay.
But, I mean, to be honest with you, I can be a bit of a workaholic. And I really did sort of, even before I sort of was one of the owners, then I would put myself into this because I care about it, and I also enjoy it as well. One of the early stories I wrote was about a company which was about to list on the stock exchange in Australia, but it transpired there'd been a business disagreement between the chap who had essentially come up with all the designs for these large format printers. And as so often happens, the guy with the ideas was forced out by the guys with the business skills, which, again, then left quite a sour taste. So did the thing that we can do with a platform like ours, which is just tell that story, give the opportunity to the business guys to make a comment, which they chose not to, and then publish and sit back. And I believe they're trading at under 1 cent these days, which I don't.
I guess that feels a little bit better, right? I mean, how did that transition occur? So you were working with 3D printing industry for how long before you kind of worked on making that buyout or the buy offer?
Oh, I mean, probably about 4-5 years, I think. So. Yeah, so it took a what? When did I know?
When did you know you wanted to be the owner?
Goodness me, I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest with you. I'm kind of sort of quite focused on what I'm doing. But I think long term, if you want to sort of stay doing something long term, you're always going to be. Maybe not. Maybe there's there's people who have a job, and they'll clock in 9 to 5, and there's people who kind of don't do that. And for better or worse, I've always been the type of person who will take work home with them, will be doing work on their phone, sort of looking at sort of academic papers, whilst I'm sort of like chilling on the sofa. So that's just me, really. I think that's just the way it worked out.
It's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it is definitely it's a different step, right? To go from I'm getting a paycheck no matter how the company does to, oh, I'm the last one that gets paid now. And so how large is the team at 3D printing industry?
So we're at the moment just under 10 people.
Okay.
But it's fluctuated between, I'd say between 15 people and probably the lowest has been like 4. And then during the pandemic, we did have to sort of let, I think, just one person go, our events organizer, which was a real shame. But we're back again into events. Well, if I say events plural, I mean events singular. I have no interest in having organized a couple of events in the past, doing the work of, the people like, the AMUG conference or TCT or, Formnext, and the work that goes into these events is phenomenal. I have no interest in doing that. I'm happy with this singular event, which we do, which is our awards, which we did a digital edition for the first time last year in October. But we'll be doing the 5th year we've done it, I think, this year, and we'll be doing that as a physical event as we've done in the past, which is much more enjoyable for everybody involved, although it does require a little bit of organization.
Means we got to put on pants again. Damn it.
Well, I'm not going to put that on the invite, but I think just for people's own sake, I probably should.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of loved about,
Well, a certain I can see his printers behind you, actually. This fellow always has to borrow a jacket and turns up in a t-shirt normally. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
that might be his signature right there. Yeah.
There's probably one of them at least, and you can see it visible. There might be, how many signatures are there on the actual, his name appears on that each printer?
It just says happy printing on it. So that's how he does his signature when he signs the printer. So I only have one signed printer. I'm hoping to change that relatively soon. But little thing that people don't know, if you put in the comments or if you use it, I don't know now that they're this busy, but when they were a little bit smaller, if you put in your comments, can Joe sign the printer? Joe hand signs printers. And so you'd get shipped a printer with the signature on it. It used to take like an extra 3 weeks, but I didn't care. For printer signed by Joe Prusa. And that's why that one looks a little bit shinier than the others, because I did clear coat it when we got it, because I wanted to maintain the signature. Because it is similar to how, we were just, to this day, I say that we are blessed to have this channel, because I would have never been able to talk to Sanjay ever had it not been for this channel. And similar to how there's a Sanjay, the hexagon that Pooch did on our standing set, and I will never move it. It will always be there in every video, because people like Joe Pruso, like Sanjay Mortimer, Josh David, and some of these companies that really work to change the way this industry has been, those companies are why my company exists. They're why a portion of 3D printing industry exists. It's why democratization of 3D printing has occurred. And the fact that you can go out and get a printer for $200. Now, we're going to put air quotes around printer. It may not work great, but it will move filament. And that there is some importance to that. And I appreciate that you guys are not only just covering some of the big industry topics, right? Like the X1 desktop metal merger buyout, but also you're covering some of the smaller things. Like you had a beautiful article on the Prusa XL when it was first announced. And, that must be interesting to also look more toward the consumer side of things, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I mentioned, I'm really grateful for the people who were so accommodating and so open to answering my idiotic questions when I first got into the industry. And one of those people was Dr. Adrian Beyer. And I was back in the UK, and I thought, can it hurt to call him? And asked for an interview, and he said, okay, come round my house. And so I went over there and spent the afternoon, well, an hour or so, just talking with him in
No
the
kidding.
workshop, and him sort of, explaining his role in everything. And boy, that guy, I mean, what a wonderful guy first. I mean, really so sharp, so funny as well. If you follow, you'll get a half an idea from his social media feed, the kind of mind you're also dealing with there. Um, and when I started the awards, we had an outstanding contribution to 3D printing, so it was only fitting that award, the very first one, went to Adrian, of course. So he comes up to the dinner every year now with his wife, and I get to catch up with him a little bit. And you're right, these people are the people that have kind of turned this from just an exclusive technology that's only available in the elite manufacturing sort of towers to people doing businesses like yours or doing businesses like E3D and democratizing this access. So I think, yeah, there can be an element of snobbery here. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes some of the events I go to, I was at one last week, and apparently I was at it virtually because it was in New York, but the conversation had still been around, do we call it additive manufacturing or do we call it 3D printing?
Yes,
And
the answer is yes. Who cares?
For some people really do care. I think if I'm differentiating, I might say industrial 3D printing to sort of
yes, that's what we do.
to say I'm talking about sort of an EOS Formiga or something, or a multi-jet fusion system. But did the term 3D printing help or hinder? I mean, okay, some people will have very strong opinions on this. Me, not so much. But if you look at the influx of money that's come into the industry from VCs, for good or bad, generally good, I'd say, businesses need money to grow, to hire people, to grow the industry, to grow the pie.
Who knew that businesses need money?
Yeah, that's what I learned in my economic days. And that's all I learned. Then surely bringing attention to it, making it an exciting technology is advantageous in some way. And if, some guy with a beard like mine gets offended by that, then so be it. I think it's a small price, because it's always a guy with a beard, always.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do anything in a journalism respect at all without ruffling some feathers. And that must be one of the more interesting sides of it too. Have there ever been stories that you put out and something came of it and you're like, well, shit, we didn't expect that to happen?
It comes from the now it's got to the stage where I know what's going to happen, and we have a daily writers meeting, and some of my guys will even pitch me articles which they're like, yeah, I'm going to get some flack for this, and we'll go, okay, well, let's do it anyway. If it's important, then we'll write about it. Sometimes it is quite fun to just see what sort of what storm gets kicked up, because people love a bit of drama. I've noticed in this 3D printing world. I don't partake in it myself. In fact, I'm rarely on social media, and I still haven't answered your question about telling you something that nobody knows about from my social media, because I don't put a lot of stuff about me out there on social media.
I'm the same way. My Facebook, and I don't have a personal LinkedIn, or I don't have a personal Instagram, I don't have a personal Twitter. I have LinkedIn and Facebook, and I never post on them.
I think it must be quite hard, I think, as a creator, and you're expected to live, a sort of very public life. And we did a broadcast with some large creators, and they all kind of expressed that it can take a real toll. Especially, there's always somebody telling you, well, you didn't do exactly as it says here in this particular manual, therefore your entire career is invalid. And people have got an opinion, and unfortunately, was the thing which seems to play the best on some of these platforms is a negative opinion. So I'm
Yeah,
kind of,
the video that we put out on Friday where the opener's me flipping off the camera saying F you Thingiverse definitely doesn't have double the amount of views that every normal video on our channel has. Nope, doesn't have double the amount of views. No.
so there you go. There's an incentive, really, to sort of, I'm not going to do a Grace Jones accent, but I was going to say slave to the algorithm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not unreasonable to say that. It and that's why, like, when we ask that question, like, tell us something that's not on your resume, I'm like, look, you don't have to say it. We know that if your professional life is very public, a lot of people prefer to have a very private personal life, because you being in the limelight constantly is incredibly difficult. It is, no matter what retrospect you're in it as, right? As a writer, I can Google your name and find everything that you've ever written. But if there's ever anything that is, new, that's very, like, specific about your personal life, that will likely come first on a search engine. So it is, yeah, I can understand that there might not be some things that you share.
Well, I mean, Googling my name is quite funny because somebody, I checked before I came on, and it's they've taken it down, but someone had bought the domain michaelpetch.com a few years ago and set it up with affiliate links to flog filament. I guess somewhere someone had done some sort of SEO ninjutsu and had worked out that my name and 3D printing go together. Therefore, people who are Googling my name also are going to buy I don't know. But it's not the case, I can assure you. But
that's a hustle I can't hate. I can be mad at the person that did it, but I can't hate that hustle.
I get no sympathy on this. Like, my friends, my colleagues, they are all just like, but this person, I kind of, anyway, they were trying to do this. They put up some of my writing, though, which was bad. Put up a photo of me, which was bad. They put up somebody else's writing from a blog I'd never heard of about 3D printing. And then the guy from that blog contacted me. It's like, take down my writing. What are you doing? And I sort of had to explain that, this isn't me. And he's like, yeah, I did think it a little bit strange that seeing you've got the biggest blog on 3D printing, why you're stealing my work. And I was like, yeah, it's not me. But anyway, it did end up for a while with the, to me at least, amusing situation that they had a disclaimer on the website, and it said michaelpetch.com is not affiliated with Michael Petch. Which you're going to get mad on this, or you're going to find it funny. I don't know. Anyway, that it happened, and
yeah. That's why, like, from the beginning, I said I'm just going to go buy all the domains that I think somebody would grab, just to be safe on that. Because yeah, as a writer, if for some reason someone did utilize your name in a bad way, it could quite damage your reputation for a while until you're able to fix it, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're also we're active in sort of protecting the work we do. People have people have sort of done us favors by taking our articles and putting them on their own website and said, well, that's you'll get more views. Well, yeah, we might do, but if they're going to your website, we don't exactly know. We're linking to you. And someone got from one of the I'm not going to say which which community it was, but they got a little bit perturbed when I said, do you mind removing those 600 or so articles from your website that we wrote, and you're now claiming copyright on? And a bit of a huff about that, doing us a favor. But it happens, and generally people are sort of it's more through misunderstanding than anything malicious most of the time.
It's true. Yeah. So what do you believe makes 3D printing industry so successful and different from the other news companies out there in this industry?
I'm glad that you think it's successful. I mean, I think it's success because I enjoy turning up every day and going to work on it, and I really enjoy working with the people who sort of do all the work, which isn't always me. And that's it. That's the secret, really. It is the people. It's Kubi, it's Oscar, it's Haley, Paul, it's Mile, it's everybody who's involved in sort of doing the work. It's like people like Tia or Bo or anyone who's kind of helped us kind of get to where we are. It's people like Anas and people like Umer and like all these people that we've kind of worked with. That's what makes it successful. I think it's caring about the people that do it, and those people caring about what they're doing. That's the long and short of it.
That's something that we hear often. What makes any company successful is the team involved, and it's something that I always admired when we spoke with Sanjay for almost 3.5 hours. That never once was it I, me. It was always we, the team, them, they. He was championing the team, and I think so far out of all the business owners, and I guess ones that we weren't immediately expecting to be business owners that we've talked to, that has been consistent. That championing your team is where you start, and then letting them prove it is where you finish, right?
And it's giving people, like, empowering them just a little bit of sort of like, well, what do you think is going to be interesting? Who do you want to speak to? And luckily our name carries a little bit of weight and opens a few doors, so we might be able to get the interview that somebody else might not. If we knock, they're going to hopefully answer, which helps. It helps having that sort of that reputation. So we've been working on a series around renewable energy at the moment. We're working on some articles around motorsport. We're doing these things, and we'll be able to talk to the CEOs of the company. We'll be able to talk to sort of the big names, and get hopefully decent sort of articles out of it. One of my favorite articles to write every year is it's a series of articles. Normally it's 2 articles. Normally it's, well, what was the most important thing that happened the previous year, and where do you see the next big thing, the future of 3D printing, if you like, for the coming year. And for those, we will I will contact sometimes 100 people for that, and we've done them with 100 people. The last one was slightly smaller because we don't necessarily need 100 people, but it's still quite a chunky read, and it's great. People take the time to give us a really considered opinion, and by and large they respect the guidelines, which are, don't just say the most exciting thing for the next 10 years is you're going to be putting glitter in some filament.
No one cares. I want to know the real. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they don't. They stay away from, no disrespect to anyone who puts glitter in filament, but they stay away from the hard marketing. As much as possible. I think marketing at larger listed companies does still get to see this, and we'll say, well, look, you need to make sure you say how excellent we are, because we are really excellent. If we say it, people will believe that. So.
Marketing is a tough thing in this industry in general, because so much of what companies do are protected under non-disclosures. And, being a journalist in this industry, quite often you have information that is under some sort of a gag order for a certain amount of time. How do you build those relationships? And the reason for this question is there are people that are likely wanting to get into the journalism field that love this industry. So how do you get those relationships?
I mean, may I get some water first? Sorry, I'm just sorry.
It's always what it's about. Gotta stay hydrated. I should have my own branded water bottles at this point, right? I guess this would be a great time to tell anyone who's here to make sure, if this is your first time watching the podcast or listening audio only, you should go ahead and get subscribed and leave a like.
All right.
I did my call to action while you were gone. It's perfect. It's fine.
Nice. So, yeah, a couple of things there. So, I'll start with the maybe I'll start with the NDAs, gag orders. absolute scourge of the tech industry, or background, as it's often also used. And I'm not talking about our industry necessarily, but tech reporting in general has a real problem with access from the likes of Apple, Facebook, Google, the usual kind of suspects, where
Right.
if they respond to your question, which Apple are normally pretty, I don't think really do, or tend to just rebut an article with a post on their own blog, you will get somebody from marketing or PR rather telling you this is all off record. This is all just on background, as it's called, which stops people being held accountable in the end, really. So it is an issue. And those guys have a massive amount of leverage to an extent. There's always going to be a bunch of people who will happily go along with any conditions that are set. Some of the larger tech publications have taken a stand against this and have explicitly said that we will not be reporting or agreeing to interviews if it's on background, unless it's explicitly agreed and there's actually a genuine reason for it to be on background. In our industry, we've kind of picked up some of these habits, not the background ones so much, but the use of embargoes, which to have a certain place sometimes, but quite often I feel are used more of a marketing tool to create a sort of wave of publicity at a particular given hour, rather than the genuine need for a reporter to go away and do the additional work. And I'm not pointing any fingers here at any particular company, but sometimes embargoes are useful if it's a big trade show and the whole industry is going to be at in Frankfurt or in Chicago, or
And you can be pre-prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, that does help. It generally does most of the time, but sometimes companies really go a little bit too far with using embargoes. NDAs now, NDAs are a great one because they can be again wielded as a very blunt instrument. Now, I remember visiting a facility where the company invited me to go. It's not like I'd snuck through the fence or just turned up with my sort of like my trilby and my press card in like that or anything. No,
that is the required outfit for a reporter, right? A trilby and a press card.
Yeah, like my.
Is that what I'm missing for some of the news videos? Is that what I need to just really elevate it a little bit?
I think you do, or a cigar.
I mean, it doesn't fit, but I can get kind of close. It's not a trilby, but we'll make it work.
You could do that, and a big cigar just going to get me to Spider-Man.
Oh.
do that one. Yeah, I actually thought that was the last Spider-Man film. The editor-in-chief was hilarious because they kind of, spoiler alert, close your ears now, they portrayed him as a sort of Alex Jones sort of madman, didn't they? Which is great. It was that was really well done. But so NDAs, yeah, I turned up at this facility and they'd invited me there, and they said, "Can you just sign this NDA to come in?" And I said, "Not really, because I'm going to be writing about this, and I might want to do that." And they were like, "All right, come in." So, I think it becomes
at best.
No, it's not, because it becomes it just becomes a common thing. If everybody goes along with it, it becomes the done thing. If you say, "Why do you need this exactly?" 9 times out of 10, in fact 10 times out of 10 in my experience, companies just say, "No, you don't have to sign that. We just ask people." Now, commercially, if you are working with blueprints, if you're working with CAD designs,
yeah,
I very much understand why that would be the case. But when we're, our product is time-sensitive information, we're either going to get it or we're not going to get it. And why do they want to give it to us in the first place? Plus, we respect, companies who want to do this. If I have a relationship with, the people running comms at all the biggest companies, I'll have meetings with these people every month, and we'll talk about what's going to happen. No, they don't give me material information about things coming up if they're listed. I don't have inside information in that regard. But they will feel comfortable sending me something and getting me to agree to an embargo, and I feel comfortable agreeing to it because I know they're not exploiting it in a particular manner. So, and that comes through, again, through people. It's a
Yep.
people business. You talk to people with, as people, then generally they do the same. Not everyone.
Makes sense. I mean, it's we've been put under, like, when we reach out to companies, sometimes they'll try to put us under NDAs. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to get stuff for a video here. I mean, and an NDA means that you don't want to be in the video. So do you want to be in the video or not? That can be complicated. And I feel like if a company tells you, hey, come out, take a look, then they put you under an NDA, what the hell's the point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of so they can control, what it's for, but it shouldn't be the default setting. I think there needs to be a genuine reason.
Right.
Okay, if you're a listed company, you can't legally say certain bits of information prior to announcing your financial results. Otherwise, you would be accused of market manipulation. I mean, something that Elon Musk gets accused of periodically by the SEC. But then it can become a cover. It can be something else. So it is, I think, on a case by case basis, you have to sort of appraise these situations.
Now, how did you end up falling in love with journalism? Because owning a company, you've kind of decided this is what I'm going to do for the foreseeable future, and to do that, you must very much love what you do. So what had you fall into love with reporting on news topics in this industry?
I guess I've always been, the sort of person who likes to know or gets interested in something and will kind of read too much about it. um, really just for my own sort of entertainment in a way, or just the pleasure of having a conversation with somebody about it and presenting something to somebody as hey, look, this is novel, check this out, this is kind of interesting. And that's kind of what we're doing. We are sort of going, well, what's the interesting part about this? How does this fit into the wider picture? Because you could just set up an RSS pointed feed from all the major companies who put out press releases.
Yep.
And just get those in your inbox every day and just read the press release. Some of our rivals actually just do copy and paste the press release, and
it's true,
okay,
yeah.
I get it. You're busy, you want to kind of put the news up there, but you don't have time. But where's the interest in that? I've got someone who's working for me, or if I'm writing something, that's pretty boring to do. So putting it into context, relating it back to the wider world, actually understanding why it is, not just what it is. I think those are the bits, and I think that's just who everybody is, really, isn't it? Everyone's always asking why. We get told what a lot. We get told this, but everyone's always got that innate curiosity, and I think maybe more than other industries, because you've got a 3D printer, you can make lots of different things. You're going to look at that and go, or are you going to look at it and just let your imagination go?
As we tell people, there are two limitations in this industry. It is your imagination and your budget. Everything else is possible. And whether we can help you out, or I have to call, I have to phone a friend, I have to use a lifeline, if you will, there is very little that is not possible here. And I want to touch on regarding the just copying the press release. That is something that I have consistently enjoyed about you guys, that you don't do that. Because I know who you're talking about, because they are also part of the RSS feed in our Discord server. At any time somebody posts something, boom, I get hit. And for some reason, like 3 of them all have the same article. It's really weird. Then 3D printing industry comes in, I'm like, oh, hey, there's one I can actually use for something, because there's stuff in here that I don't have otherwise. Information that I can utilize, whether we're turning it into a video or I'm just using it for my own just personal enjoyment. I enjoy reading your publication. And that is not something I say very often, because let's be frank, the news right now, not great. Great. And if there is a publication that I
Mm.
can look forward to actually reading and learning about an industry in a way that is not just useful, but is not overly wordy, has always been something that I've enjoyed. As someone who is mildly not useful and considerably overly wordy, it is very useful to me to get kind of the meat and potatoes. And if I want the dessert, I can go researching further.
Yeah, and I like to say that we're vulgarizers to a certain extent. Okay, and I used to put my reporters through a horrible sort of boot camp where it's like, right, okay, you're going to be writing a sort of 800 word summary of an academic article every week about something you don't know about. And you're not going to enjoy it, but you are going to learn about it eventually. And I think there's a bedding in period. Any sort of anyone who's worked in journalism, who's been put on, assigned to a new beat, would generally say that that period is maybe about 3 months or so before you start really understanding a little bit of it.
That's fair.
So I think writers generally might be tending towards introversion, tend to be maybe a bit more reflective. I'm speaking very broad strokes, and not everybody matches that, but they are curious and smart people. They've probably been reading a bit as well, which I think helps quite a lot. And that's
For sure.
that's the bigger part of writing, is the reading side that's often not mentioned. So you get a person like that, you give them a topic which I think is interesting, and they hopefully think of it is interesting if they've applied and if they're working with 3DPI, then we'd hope that would be the case. And that's what you get. You get something which other people find interesting. They're not just doing it for a cynical reason, because nobody's going to read it. And companies have been and gone who've done that, and some companies who will just exist to game SEO will, again,
They're
it's
going to do
like,
what
great,
they're going to do. Yeah.
they're going to do what they're going to do. But what we do does take time. It does take more time, and that's probably why you'll get 3 articles all the same, and then you'll get ours a little bit later, because that does take longer to do.
I do appreciate that. I'm not always interested in who's on first, right? I want to know who's going to give the best information. And when something big goes down, I know which website I'm hitting F5 on constantly, right? And look, I'm not being paid to say this. I asked you to come on our podcast so that we could kind of talk about what it takes and what it's like, because a lot of us take this information for granted. And if you've had to try to do data analytics in this industry, and you could ask the 2 former data analysts that we tried to bring on, there's not a lot of it. And the big company that everybody went to was just bought by ASTM, that I found out through you guys. Terry Follers and I are friends. He didn't tell me. I found out through your article, and I called him. I said, really? You're not going to tell me? I got to find it out through 3D printing industry? I thought we were friends. He said, look, I can't talk about it. I'm like, fine. But when you can, let's talk. He said, I'm not allowed to talk about this for a while.
Yeah. I was in a very nice restaurant in Frankfurt, and he did tell me then, but he didn't tell me anything else. It's as much as I tried to push red wine towards him, not getting anything. So they don't always get everything. But I do appreciate what you're saying. Thank you, because it does mean a lot. Like I say, I respect the content you're making as well, because it's a shift in gear. I think it's like, coming at it with, a nice attitude towards it, with a higher level of interest, and pitching it in a way that, I feel that not everybody does. So it is fantastic.
Well, and something that I think is important is education. And we've talked about this a little bit and kind of what it took for you to get there. But our staff writer, her name is Simona. She wrote this question specifically, and I happen to really love this one. But for those who haven't read the article yet, why is it important to incorporate 3D printing into school education? Something that I'm very adamant about.
I think I was talking to I was at a party on Saturday, actually, Several of my colleagues were there, and I'm the oldest by a long way. And I was so explaining to them when I studied graphic design, or graphics as they called it, which was essentially engineering drawing,
Right.
as it was really. So you would have that big wooden board with the ruler which slides up and down, and you'd be drawing double helixes. And our school kind of expected us to go and work for, I suppose, the aerospace firms that were predominant in the area, and be able to draw double helix sort of by hand would be a useful skill in designing engines at Rolls-Royce or wherever. And it was not useful at all. Technology changed very quickly. Very quickly. You know, I suppose, in the early generation where home computers were possible. I had Amstrad CPC 6128 was my first computer. That 128 stands for 128K.
That is correct. That it does. Not megs, not gigs, not terabytes.
Yeah.
Kilobytes.
Exactly. And what's a game? You would buy a magazine, and there would be a couple of pages of BASIC that you could type in and get them there. My school wasn't teaching us that. You know, that was like our own free time. You know, we were kind of, you know, sort of that me and my friends, that's what we were into. 3D printing, you know, it's been around for well,
37 years or so now, I think.
Yes. So
38.
it's not been home 3D printing a lot less, but some people do like to draw those analogies and do like to say, well, look at the home computer, look at that. And
I hate
should it be part? Yeah, I'm not on board with it entirely, but I think, oh, sorry about that.
You're good.
I better, oh, there we go. Let's just turn that off. I'm not entirely on board with that analogy, but I do think schools, do they have to teach 3D printing? No. Should they teach it? I think it's pretty interesting to learn about. I think it's one of those topics that, honestly, it can be used in so many different lesson plans. I mean, if you're learning about the Industrial Revolution, and okay, you can then go and start doing some sort of replica of James Watt's steam engine, or, you know, even just how did Isambard Kingdom Brunel put them bridges together. There's all sorts of elements that can be utilized within the curriculum, and building curriculums around there. People learn in different ways, you know, people really do. And there's nothing worse than somebody who's discouraged at school, who leaves school not thinking they're no good at doing something because they were just taught it in a bad way. And if 3D printing is a tool that can be used to change that, then I'm all for it.
I'm guessing you had an experience like a lot of us in this industry had. We had one professor or one teacher that kind of changed the way we looked at certain things. Did you have that when you were in school? Someone that just kind of said, no, this is the way it should be, and whoever's been teaching it to you this way is wrong?
I can't think I directly did. I had some pretty interesting teachers. One of them I think, played jazz trumpet at Glastonbury. Glastonbury is a big music festival here in the UK. One of them was, I swear, he was like 8 foot tall and had like an egg. I won't say his name, but his name was pretty funny as well. He was terrifying. But no, all of them were, not all of them, but some were more memorable than others. And some, I was fairly fortunate that they all were reasonably sort of engaged, and did sort of, I think, didn't have to sort of do things so by the book and so concerned with, obviously Ofsted, that's our school inspectorate, did exist back then, but there were maybe a little bit more leeway than well, I understand how schools are at the moment from some people I speak to.
We actually have a comment here. It's from Dave. He said, I never realized how much Google's algorithm for me has learned to direct me to the 3D printing industry articles. It seems like every other day they have something that I'm super interested in reading about. Thank you. I
That's
have
great
to
to hear.
agree. Like, I have to agree. Google's certainly trained to know that just feed me 3DPI first. And, then if I want to go to others, I will go to others and I will find them on my own. That's definitely something you guys have down. The SEO game, you've got that on lock. And while it's not exactly required for journalism, it certainly helps out a lot that those that are looking for certain news topics can find it very easily and readily on your website.
Thank you. And I'm happy to tell everybody our sort of SEO secrets. If
Please.
you just follow this link, please, for the small fee of
There he
$699, I
is.
can.
I'm like, he's going to drop some knowledge. And I'm like, this feels like a sale. And he's joking. All right, we're good. I'm not quick
No,
muting.
no. I mean, SEO. What a plague it really is. Though, honestly,
I
you
feel
know,
this in my soul.
yeah, it's such a chore. And who are we writing this for? Are we writing this for that company we were talking about earlier, Skynet, to read? Or are we writing this for David to read? Honestly, I everything has to be so on the nose, so on the money. The art of the pun in journalism. Um, Again,
You're not
going back
wrong.
to Glastonbury Festival, a local music magazine, and for the first time, there was going to be a covered stage at this festival playing electronic music. And this never happened before. This was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
The local music magazine covered this as a fantastic headline. Now is the summer of our disco tent.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's not going to rank when you're looking for, dance tent at Glastonbury. No, so that art of the pun, we still try to keep it alive in the subheadings from time to time. We don't always have, so it's an art that needs to be sort of nurtured, like all arts. But
is there anything that you wish was different about it? Like, because it appears that there's pretty much a known system for how to report on things in the 3D printing industry. Do you wish there was something that could be a little bit different about it?
I'm not sure where to go with the question, really. I mean, because you're essentially writing two different types of article. There's the news type article where you get the most important information closer to the top and quickly, so people can just read it in their RSS or in the daily email we put out. They can just read the first
Love those emails.
10 20 things. Do I want to read any more? Nope, I don't care about this. And
That's what I like
go to the next
about
one.
those emails.
Yeah, or you could have a long intro, which some people do, and there's a longer format, that kind of more leisurely, slow-paced journalism works for certain things, not necessarily people trying to get tech facts all the time. Or there's the interview sort of type article, and which can be a bit more scene setting. We're in the the lair of probably not using the word lair is not a great way to introduce a CEO ever. But maybe I will do that for an article. But
if you're inside of a 3D printing layer, I think that is appropriate. I mean, geez, to me that would be an honor, right? Say, well, I am in the layer of making. Yeah, no, that's kind of cool. Although, kind of sounds like a weird name for a sex dungeon, but whatever. We're down for it either way.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know about that, but is there a different way to do it? I mean, of course, there's always a different way to do it. YouTubers, people who are not necessarily even YouTubers, people who just who have got businesses and they're doing this as another string to their bow, or people who just generally care about 3D printing and are interested. I've seen people doing that where they'll read the headlines, they'll discuss the headlines, and this was a big thing.
We do it
For some time. There were some great people who used to do this ages ago, and it was quite entertaining. Sometimes I'd watch it and go, They don't have quite all the facts, but let's see how far they go with this. And there used to be some very angry people on there. And they used, it was hilarious sometimes. In fact, one of them sort of did a big reveal recently. Like, he's like, it was me all along. And I was like, yeah, here's a photo of you I took when you were doing it. I knew it was you. And, so I don't know. It, it's what it is. People will consume information in different ways. I think, initially there was the people who were like, well, you can't read anything on a website. What's the point in that? Then it's like video, that will never be it. And now, the more established YouTubers are like, well, TikTok, what's that about? So
yeah, short form content's tough when you don't shut up like I do.
Yeah, I get all my news as an NFT these days, mate. That's what I
do. I'm sure that's gonna be coming into our industry anytime soon. Now we've had quite a few people ask about it. So
I think we did that. I can't remember if we did it or we said we were going to do it or just put it on social media. But years ago, April Fool's Day, we said we're going to be publishing the news as an STL. One of the journalists from another publication got really angry about it. I didn't do that.
You could just take an Illustrator file of the paper, line trace it, extrude it in any CAD program. You could actually do it.
Yeah, that would have been too much work.
It would have been too much work, but it would have been going the mile for the joke.
Yeah,
I've never gone the mile for jokes before. If someone is looking to get into journalism in the 3D printing industry, what are some tips and tricks that you might have for them so that they can kind of get to where they want to be pretty quickly?
Learn how to pitch. Learn how to pitch. Find out the title, the publication you're looking to write for. Find out what they write about. If they are publishing, a list of 50 cat toys to print, don't go and pitch them an in-depth profile of new electron beam melting technology. Likewise, vice versa. Be concise with your pitches. Put in the W's, who, what, where, why, when, how. Who you're going to interview, if you're going to interview people, why you're going to interview them. Bit about yourself as well is good. It's like, okay, maybe you are somebody who's well known somewhere, but maybe that editor doesn't know who you are. So do put why you are the person who should be writing that story for sure. And phone or email them every 10 minutes after you send that first email. We love that.
Oh, that's just doing the journalistic follow-up, right?
Set a notification to every 10 minutes.
I mean, geez, you're on a live stream at the better part of 8 o'clock at night, so you must be answering your emails at 4 o'clock in the morning. No.
What did was it who was it who said I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death? Is it Nas? Did Nas say that? I believe it was.
You're asking the wrong guy for that. I'm not good with cultural references like that.
Okay.
I don't sleep much, but it's because I'm in pain constantly. But that's one day I'll actually 3D print my spine for a video. But I'm always curious from a content creator perspective, and I know there are other content creators watching us because they've commented on the stream so far. What do you want to see more out of the content creators when it comes to covering news topics? Because a lot of us are getting our basis from writings like yours and writings from other areas. What would you like to see more from content creators, though?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is a self-serving one. I'm not gonna
lie. I've got a confession to make.
Oh no, you don't watch them.
I don't.
Because you know enough about it already, right?
I mean, I don't really watch much anymore. I don't have time to watch YouTube.
That's fair.
To be honest, it's something I wish I had more time to do. I noticed H Bomber Guy did put a 3-hour video out about Deus Ex Humankind. Got to find time for that.
Long video.
ContraPoints hasn't dropped anything for half a year.
So you're a big
Uh,
gamer then?
um, mm, games, you say? That little bad boy.
Nice. Is that printed?
No, it's not. That's actually
Come
from
on.
that's like an old Games Workshop bit from the 90s, probably. Yeah, those things. Yeah. Um, um, content. My partner is obsessed with old episodes of Cheaters. So
Jeez.
Peter Pesky, is he? As his name, the guy the guy who wears sunglasses whenever it's nighttime, daytime, snowing, tornado, doesn't care, he's wearing sunglasses and he's like tracking down the cheaters. So that kind of content gets watched a bit around here. The 3D printing content.
You're in the thick of it too much, huh?
Yeah, it's like at the weekends I'm kind of doing something else, really.
I understand. We got a comment saying, let's get some crystal ball talk on where the industry is headed.
So I like to hear. Yes, great question. Where is the industry headed?
They're making stuff, I know that.
Let's tap into this. Well, it's a trifecta, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a trifecta. You've got machines, you've got materials, you've got software. I think on the horizon, there's elements which combine all of those. So computational alloy discovery, kind of interesting to me. So I don't know, you want something that's ductile, but also magnetic. You want something that's, sort of tough in a certain part, but isn't going to sort of, isn't so hard it tears whatever it's against to pieces in different parts. You want to create these materials that you can program for heat dissipation or whatever. So maybe an alloy exists already. Maybe a polymer is out there, or maybe you can go and dial it up on some computational alloy discovery,
right,
and developing how else also you're going to use this material palette. I mean, what percentage of the periodic table do we actually use anyway? It's quite substantial. Quite, yeah. But problem is, where are we getting, our cobalt? Where are we getting, our sort of, maybe slightly misnamed rare earth minerals, things like this? What are the alternatives for these as well? What sort of would do the job? Now, are we going to get there anytime soon? This is a crystal ball, my friends.
Yeah. Don't have those answers.
Can't tell you. Can't tell you about that. So that's one thing I think is interesting: material discovery, and that's also going to be aided by software. And I think that's probably an application for AI as well in there as well.
So you're seeing AI be used relatively often then inside the industry. I know that we're starting to see it more with companies who are they're pulling the DRM. Basically, everyone's doing this now, and I hate to say it, but fine. And now they're adding AI as a bonus where, okay, yeah, we want you to upgrade because you're getting, these extra things. I'll call out a specific company because I actually like what they've done with it, which is Markforge, which with Eiger and Blacksmith, where Blacksmith is more or less the AI that controls the X7 and the Metal X. That's the kind of thing that I would love to see. Is that something that you're thinking might be trickling down into more technology?
That's been around for some time now. I remember Greg Marks standing up in an event in Nottingham, but talking about this 3-4 years ago. So that's, AI, and whether it's through design choices, through topology optimization.
And topology, looking at you guys.
Yeah. Generative design elements as well. I mean, I think Markforge, their competitor, Desktop Metal, were running some interesting looking uses of it. it's going to filter into all sorts of elements. I mean, it's an AI if you're running a digital twin, and doing preemptive maintenance, MRO type work.
Hmm.
Where's AI in there? There's no sort of computational, like fluid dynamics as well. How much of that is AI? I heard a fascinating story from one of the largest software companies, where an engineer applied CFD to a heart patient. The DICOM data that was provided, there was a patient who required sort of very drastic surgery to survive, and
They use
had
CFD.
been to a, yeah, I know. Wild.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And people were I think the outcome was positive on that. So there's these tools. There's within software, and be able to solve these things for X. Yeah, I think why not materials? AI can again be one of those words which is bandied around like the metaverse, which is
Yeah, you either love it or you hate it, right? AI is either
yeah.
something that you look forward to, or you think it's the government, and you're applying an extra layer of tinfoil.
But look, it goes back to what we were talking about before. If you put a label on something, then people can start backing it financially.
Right.
Ideas can gravitate around this theme if you're describing industry 4.0, which some people like, some people don't.
It's
but
vague,
it's
and the
useful.
general public doesn't get it, so I don't use it.
It can be useful to galvanize, to crystallize, to all sorts of ISEs. People around an idea and build up that sort of critical mass of brain power or money or of users to push a path forward, I think, and plow that path where there was one. It's none. So, yeah.
I have to agree.
I think also crystal ball gazing machines. Maybe it's not crystal ball gazing if it's stuff I've seen, but electron beam is back.
It is.
EBM. I think at Formnext, a whole bunch of companies who are doing electron beam again. Who we haven't really seen that for a while, have we?
I saw
it was
in 2016, but I haven't seen it since. Not in a big way.
Well, Arcam, maybe you're thinking of Arcam, who was snapped up by GE back in 2016, the biggest deal that happened in additive for forever. And then they went and bought up Concept Laser as well. And then they're developing using the technology platforms there to further development. But then you've got people like Wayland, who are sort of doing electron beam, and these gigantic machines with a vacuum in there to allow the sort of energy. And there's advantages of electron beam over powder bed fusion. When it comes to the porosity, it comes to.
And these are 7-figure machines for people wondering. This is not like going to end up as an Ender 3 in your house. I promise you, it's not happening. I'm sorry, but it's not happening. A lot of the big push this year is in industrial. We've hit a bottom for the consumer market. EBM, or even more from SLM. I mean, just the metal or high-end polymer is, I think, where we're going to be moving as well. And
well, that was the expiry. Yeah, I mean, back to polymers. I mean, the old box in a box patent went, didn't it? Last year? That was a good one, actually. I think we posted last time. The patent's about to expire. Straight away on Reddit, like, don't tell them, they've probably forgotten. It's like, yes, I'm sure Mr. Stratasys has forgotten.
They've certainly forgotten about Thingiverse, let me tell you.
Sorry,
that
Scott,
was a
if you're
cash
watching.
cow they could have used, but boy, they've
well, that's a different matter, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of companies moving up that polymer pyramid, that thermoplastic pyramid there, going from PLAs, ABS to moving up through your sort of your pecs, your peaks, these these polymers, which can be a little pricey if you're going to be doing
Yeah.
it.
Peak is running what, like 300 a kilo these days, and
I think you've got a good
Ultem.
deal on it.
No, 3DX Tech normally sells it pretty
Okay.
decently, but of course they were just bought out, so who the hell knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Last year was the year of the SPAC, right? The 2021 was the year of the SPAC,
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned. We actually just saw one fail, which was interesting. I didn't think that was a possibility, but that happened.
Talking about Essentium now?
Yeah, it was the Essentium SPAC.
Mm.
I don't know if they're gonna try it again, but yeah, it did not it didn't go well for them. But it makes sense, right? 3D printing was taking off. It was on a moon level trajectory, and so every company wanted to get a ride on the contrails, if you will, of the rocket going into outer space. And some of them got blown off. Some of them decided they could actually hold on. I am interested because from a content creator's perspective, yes, the Ender 3s are fun, but at some point you can only talk about how to level a bed and upgrade a $300 printer and turn it into a $1,000 printer so many times. You have to look beyond that. That's why we got the Artec Eva and the Artec Ray. We're going to be doing scanner shootouts because in my mind, 3D scanning is going to be getting a pretty big push this year. We've been seeing it from all the companies reaching out to us. And so I said, all right, I got a good deal on them. Let's buy them.
It's funny. I remember walking around. It might have been IMTS in 2014 or maybe even later in 16. Talking to the scanning companies, and some of them were like 3D printing.
Yeah, they want like metrology grade reverse engineering style stuff for CNC.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, now it's they're all over it, and some of them have always been. I've been to the Renishaw facility in south of this country, and those guys know what they're doing with metrology.
Poor Renishaw. They had a rough go last year. Nobody wanted to buy. They were like, "Please, someone buy us," and everyone's like, "How about no?"
I don't know about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
McMurtry is. I've never been to visit a company where the taxi driver who picked me up to take me back to the station has sung the praises of the CEO higher than anybody ever, and telling stories about, oh yeah, you come down and make us all cups of tea and stuff. And these are taxi drivers; they're not working for him. They just pick up people and take them back to the train station. He's in stated reason for not concluding that deal. Now, take that as you will. But I have a tendency to sort of believe what the man says, given my understanding of how he operates his business, was that he couldn't find anybody who was willing to continue the company as a going concern in that part of the world, and guarantee the employment. So he stepped away. Yeah. Now I've got a lot of time for a sort of leader like that, to be honest with you. We've seen similar things. We've seen, I believe, was it Frank Herzog from Concept Laser, when GE bought it, as a condition of the deal as well, to maintain jobs in Lichtenfeld. Apologies if I've mixed any names up there, but I think from the top of my head, that's what he did. And I think, that's an example of, you're not placing sheer profits before people. And it's okay. I worked in financials, and maybe profits before people was absolutely the default setting there.
That's true.
But in our industry, there are companies who do some amazing stuff every year. And they've been doing this for a long time, and they don't even talk about this. You wouldn't know about this unless you go to visit them. And you might sort of talk to some of the employees and go, oh yeah, we just have to build a village or something like that. And it's like, what? Yeah, well, I mean, there's all sorts of companies are doing this. So I think, yes, there's a profit motive. Yes, there's a responsibility.
Of course, it wouldn't be a business otherwise.
But there's also a lot of good sort of social good coming out of this. We saw that around the corona, around the pandemic. We're seeing that again. I think Marie Langer is another amazing leader of EOS. And she has been instrumental in rallying the industry to support what is happening and support the Ukrainian people and the people who are victims of the current war as well. So there really are some amazing people in this industry. I may be biased, but I think maybe more than any other industry.
I have to agree, right? I don't normally see this kind of companies favoring people more than this. I think it's because this industry is still in the startup mindset of, all right, we got to protect our people because we can sell out all day long, but if people don't go with it, the company's going to fail too, right? And if the buyer just wants the IP to shelve it, well, okay, no amount of, hey, keep my people is going to actually keep the people. But these buyouts now seem to be more I guess deliberate versus the 3D Systems shopping sprees of the, early 2010, 2012 era where there's like, how about we just buy everybody? And then Stratus is like, that's a good idea. Let's do it together. And then they fought over gone are those days. We're seeing acquisitions that are being made for reasons.
Okay, I mean, this is a wild one. We inventor of resin printing, old 3D Systems, been out there doing their SLA.
Chuck Hull, right?
Chuck Hull, yep. And on the other team, Scott Crump, inventor of FDM, and the reason we all call it FFF.
I mean, now, I call it both, but yes,
you call it both,
they have copyright over it.
But look, Stratasys bought Origin, didn't they? Origin being a resin company, and they're looking to get into that. 3D Systems. Who did they buy?
Titan Robotics.
Titan, of course, yeah, Clay's company, yeah.
A good personal friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I messaged him on LinkedIn, I'm like, you son of a bitch, congratulations.
I'm not gonna show this because Clay asked me not to, but that's a print from one of those systems from many years ago.
Yep.
I still have on my desk.
He's a good guy. He's a
great guy. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, more power to Clay for getting there. But what are we seeing? We're seeing Stratasys doing resin. We're seeing, sort of 3D Systems doing FDM. Cats hanging out with dogs. What's going on?
Yeah. So I'm a part of a 3D printing Slack group, and Scott Green happens to be in it. And so we were all kind of going nuts over the acquisition of Titan. And he's like, I saw the coming a mile away. I said, Scott, you work for them. You're not allowed to participate in this. He's like, it makes sense. They're getting back into automotive. Which is interesting considering Local Motors is now under, full liquidation, right? If you want to buy a Local Motors 3D printed car, they're up for sale like in 2 weeks, I think, or a week. So that all is a little bit weird.
Well, I mean, automotive in Europe, as the market's been very soft for some time. So the application there, I know Local Motors' vision was never just to make very outrageous sports cars that nobody could afford. They were trying to sort of develop a new way of manufacturing. That didn't work out for them. But also you've got the likes of Zinger, Kevin Zinger, developing that outrageously fast car. Now, there's going to be niche applications. There's going to be very high value, very high performance products made with additive. This is what's going on to your F1 car. This is what's going into, sort of areas where sort of the buy to fly ratio is critical. Weight is very important for aerospace, for space, for defense, blah, blah, blah. But saying that, there's also industrialization of series production taking place, so we are told, with these very small, complex parts that can be produced in a reasonable volume, and technology's gearing up for that.
Yes.
Now, whether that's things like two-stage sort of process where you have a material that's infused with binders and the metal, and then it has to go for a secondary debinding and sintering stage. We've seen those type of products coming out, or whether that's takes some other format.
Yeah, actually, one of the companies for the metal was in here earlier, Virtual Foundry. They were guests a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Trisha.
Really?
Trisha and I'm gonna forget his name. It might have been David. We're on a couple of weeks ago, so we got to talk to them. They showed off some pieces because, yeah, you can do it, and yeah, it requires to send out to get sintered, or you got to buy your own oven, but that's bringing metal into the homes of many people on machines that have no valid reason to be printing in metal.
Well, yes, I'm just
Brad. There it is. Thank you,
Brad. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
they're still here.
They are, well, the very first 3D printing industry awards that we did. Every year, the way we've done it from day one is we've made it a celebration of 3D printing.
Yep.
And part of that is to have a trophy that's 3D printed.
They did it.
And part of that is someone's going to design that. So we have a design competition. We've had some very generous sponsors who've donated printers to be given to the winning designer. We've had a substantial amount of entries, which was kind of, I think, not what Brad was expecting in Virtual Foundry when he very
said
kindly,
himself, you're fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, because he took this challenge on, and this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, to actually produce on a desktop system, as far as I know. Was he using Raise? I can't remember exactly.
They're using Crealities currently. I don't know. At least in the shop, of course, you can run it on basically any printer. I don't know what they were using at the time, though.
That's the thing; you can run on anything. Yeah. And anyway, he says, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll make you like the 20 categories plus a couple of extra." And he delivered. He did it. I mean, great. I mean, this is like, you can see on our site, you can see Adrian holding this up. You can see, I think probably Rick Fulop, I think Jonah Meyerberg, the CTO of Desktop, came over to pick up the award. All these people at Siemens, like Siemens Energy, and they won it for an energy application which was making a turbine blade, I believe, and that would have been made on a very expensive system. Now,
they made them on Flash Forges, according to the comments. So either Trisha or Brad or someone is in here hanging out. They said it was Flash Forge for the trophies. Boy, that must have rustled some jimmies. Oh, check out these. They're as good as yours for 1,000th of the price.
It was fantastic, and I mean, it's Virtual Foundry. Love those guys. Yeah, really sort of came through for us. So yeah.
That's part of the show up. See, they showed up and they made it right. I got one last question for you, Michael. What is the most fascinating topic you've covered while writing for 3D printing industry?
I don't do a lot of writing these days, to be fair.
Fascinating subject that the 3D printing industry has covered.
Yeah. I do very little writing if I can avoid it. No, I mean, that's not true. I really do enjoy putting myself into writing. No, the topic of my choice, though, I'll say one which was unexpected, and it led to something rather unexpected. So, obviously, who's got the money in the early days to do a lot of high-end, interesting exploratory work around cutting-edge sort of science?
I don't.
It's the military. Military. They've got some cash. They've got a bit of cash. Everyone knows this. So I'm reporting often on, some of the things, the little nuggets you can get out occasionally, because for obvious reasons, you don't want to always be talking about this. But this is going back 5 years or so, maybe 4 or 5 years. And I must have been reporting on this in a manner which was least accurate enough, because I wake up one morning and in my inbox there's an email and it's just headed declassified.
That's a nice way to start an email. Yep.
Oh, sorry, not classified. It wasn't. It never hadn't been classified. It was declassified. It was not classified. And I thought somebody is pulling my leg here, because it turned out to be from NATO.
Yep,
they were
that's
having
cool.
a tech conference, they call the Chiefs of Transformation Conference, that used to take place every November or December, in Norfolk, Virginia, I believe, at the base there. Well, at downtown and also on the base. And they wanted me to come and present some of the technologies I was writing about. So I got in touch with Stratasys, with I think Nanodimension, with 3D Systems, with a few other companies, and they'll send me some little bits to take along, some printed circuitry, some jet stuff, bits and bobs. And I thought I'd get there, go to the hotel, and there'll be a sort of little expo or something like that. And there was a little expo. There were people just displaying all the sort of cutting edge stuff in their industries, as the 4-star generals, the Supreme Allied Commander sort of marched in there, a sort of band playing as well, which was all in uniform. And I was chatting with like different people, and everyone was very interested in 3D printing and what was going on. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not doing my presentation here. They took me to the base, and it was me, one of the guys from DARPA, and some guy who made some kind of robot I'm not going to talk about, but the generals from across NATO were all wargaming in one room, and then they would pop out and come and chat with us about sort of additive manufacturing, and the other tech. The other two techs that were there, and I had to take my metal 3D printed key ring back from one of the guys who was leading something quite serious in Iraq.
Yeah.
He just wanted to walk away. I was like, sir, excuse me. So most interesting topic I've written about, not exactly answering the question, but that's certainly taken me to one of the most interesting places, I'd say.
Yeah. That's more than that,
yeah.
That's a great answer. I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No, look, it's not always something that you can talk about, or what might be cool to you may not be cool to everybody else, right? Being able to talk to some of the people that we've been able to talk to is some of the most interesting thing for me, or when a fan reaches out and thanks us for helping them or something. That's what's cool to me, because it makes a lot of the BS worth it, because there's certainly a lot of it. And I would love to have more people that are watching this. One, guys, go over, get subscribed to the daily emails from 3D printing industry. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the industry, and do it in a way where you can get it in bite-sized chunks, nice and simple, it's a great place to get it. I have gotten it every single day since before Michel Petch worked and then owned the 3D printing industry. So please go sign up for that. And yeah, it is a lot of high-end stuff. But when people ask you about 3D printing metal, because it's gonna happen, you can utilize the information that you're getting from those daily emails to help you be able to talk about it with authority. And that's kind of a big deal, right? Then you're the subject matter expert, and you've got your sources, because anyone that knows anything has got their sources and where they get it from. Michael, is there anything that you wanna end with? Any little bits of information or something, other than get subscribed to the newsletter?
Yeah, I mean, just keep on doing what you love, really. Honestly, I mean, that's the only way to live, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it pays off one day. It's been slow for me, but we're getting there. Hopefully we can inspire some people. And Simona, our writer, was really excited for this one. She said this is one that I've been looking forward to for a while, because she got into the journalism industry and has kind of fell in love with 3D printing on the side. I have not convinced her to get her own 3D printer yet, but I have a feeling it's coming very soon. She said, I love learning about the people that you talk to, because they're not the turbo nerds that have 16 college degrees that I'm expecting to find. They're regular people that found themselves in a very unique scenario that caused that impetus to get them into the industry. And Michael, your story is very similar to that, which is pretty awesome. seems like a lot of the authority figures did it that way.
That's the tribe here, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and also I would say, if people are planning on going to a trade show, the AMUG conference is coming up in April, and then it's going to be Rapid in Detroit, and then it'll be the next big one will be November, and it'll be Frankfurt for Formnext. So if you can get yourself to any of those events, go around, chat with the people, talk with them. That's what I did. That's what I did. And honestly, there's some good people out there. They'll be happy to talk
Yeah.
at these shows.
I wish AMUG and Rap were a little closer, so I could just do a week or 2 weeks and just stay up there instead of having to travel twice. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Mm.
But Michael, it was a pleasure speaking with you. We definitely got to talk more. Guys, make sure you go over to 3dprintingindustry.com. Take a look at their articles. If you see news things that we're covering, if it's not immediately clear to you, I'm probably getting a lot of the information from Michael and his team, because they make amazing articles that are easy to digest and give you all the information you need without any of the chaff whatsoever. So I appreciate that. And then I add the chaff because that's apparently what we do here.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I enjoy, I add a little bit of a flair, if you will, because I am certainly not a one-trick pony when it comes to this stuff. We do enjoy both hobbyist and professional topics. So anyways, thank you all so much. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.